All right. Awesome. So welcome, guys, or lady and gentlemen. We're here. My subs know you, Adam. You blew them away last time when we did the holographic blood, and we got a lot of views with that one. And every time you come on, you bring some exciting stuff. And now you're bringing Mari, who is Dr. Marizelle. Do you pronounce it Arce or RC?
Arce.
Arce, you say me. All right. Yeah. And we are going to be talking about isopathy or isopathic medicine and theory, which is excellent. Once again, Adam, you've brought me something I never heard about before. And this is really fascinating, especially for people into terrain theory versus germ theory, pleomorphism. And we'll get into that too, and even how this kind of laps into what we're starting to learn about these little somatids or microzymas and chi, prana, ki. It's starting to look like all this DNA and all that stuff is more BS. And these little puppies might actually be the secret to the universe, right? So
yeah,
that's exciting. But welcome to the podcast that isn't a podcast.
Nice.
Mari, maybe Adam, since they've met you before, most of our subs, Mari, maybe you can just tell us a little bit about yourself shortly, briefly, and then tell us what is isopathic medicine versus homeopathic. We know allopathic is the devil's rubbish, but maybe you can tell us kind of a little bit what it is, then we'll get deeper. And how did you get into this? Like, did you just start out doing this, or, how does one find their way into this, which is a very occulted, or I would say not talked about science, right? Or frowned upon maybe, but I'll turn it over to you. I'll shut up. Go ahead.
Well, I'm a naturopathic doctor. I've been practicing since 2007. But I practice more traditionally. So I practice more like an old school naturopath. I have been since the inception of practicing based on terrain. I never, since 2004, I didn't believe germs caused disease. And how I got into isopathy is essentially the same reason why I started practice and not believing in germs causing disease, because I worked for a company that actually sold and taught how to use the isopathic remedies that Underline created. Well, some of them ones that Underline created. So being a rep for that company and then going through schooling and then clinical and then getting out into practice, it created my foundation. So the way I think, the way I practice, the way I look at ills that people have, the problems that they have, the symptoms that come up that are so-called diseases are all based on the terrain model. The regimens, the paradigms, all of that I, enlist or create for people. It never is looking at the germ as an enemy. It's looking the germ as a friend, and in a more complex way, the germ in and of itself is a form of, the more complex but simple looking forms that live within us and without us. So the microzymas, as Béchamp would call them, or the protists, that Underline called, and there's a substantial amount of different names for them, but, sticking to microzymas makes it more simple. So if you want to say that, that's fine.
That's pretty fascinating. It's John Franklin Underline. He was a germ theory guy, actually, wasn't he?
Yes, he was.
That's crazy. So how did he kind of accident into this, or how is a germ theory guy involved? Because this is, as we're going to get into the details, the nuts and bolts of what this is. This is terrain medicine all the way. This, right? Mm-hmm. And especially, coming up now, I won't say it, but the little flu they're trying to push now, and the first positive person tested's last name is Gosling, which means a young goose. Like, come on, get up. So this is right in line with where we all need to be going. Is we're just so afraid of germs, and this has been a thing even when I was putting out all the films I did about the V words, the boogeymen. We're going to go on YouTube, so I won't say it, but a lot of people say, yeah, but bacteria, Steve, bacteria though, that, you know, you know what I mean? So, and this is actually, in fact, on your course, I was reading on the Bigelsen academy.com, which is where you're offering a course on this type of practice. It's your quote was great. It said, "Stop fighting germs, bacteria, and fungus, and learn to work with them," which is totally against everything we're taught from allopathic medicine, right? Adam, maybe you can just quickly then. My people do know you, but tell us how did you get Mari involved in with the Bigelsen Academy? Oh, you're muted.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah, sorry. You sound much better when we can't hear your lips.
Appreciate that. Put in whatever you want there, whatever you thought I said.
How did you get Mari involved, and why, more specifically?
Yeah, good question. You know, we did what we had did for a long time with Dad. We had a method, was replicable, we observed patterns, and what my father did, looking at the blood, was one thing, seeing blocks in the body, but then the treatments that he administered. You know, we talked about scars last time and the structure of the body and things like that. And when Josh and I work with people, we educate people about this, but then there's the other part of it. Dad worked with isopathic remedies. He worked with some cell therapy, and we really didn't use a lot of things in our clinic. It was very simple what we did. So something went on, and Mari, I forgot, how did this go down? I think your husband somehow reached out and made an appointment for us to have a conversation.
Yes, he was watching a video with you guys, and I don't remember who it was with, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, that's exactly how my wife sounds." And he started, and I think it was Fiona who responded, like, email this and set up a, appointment to talk to Adam. And so I talked with you, but I think it was like kind of like getting to know you, but then it was like you did your thing, I did my thing, I didn't think anything of it. And then it just like circled back because I think I said, I asked you a question from the terrain thing about blood. And that's basically how it started.
Yeah, it was neat, Steve. You know, this was a few years back that she had reached out. We had a conversation. And it was funny because I don't know if that was you. I had a couple conversations with people and someone was like, "I'm kind of starstruck," because my dad was a hero.
That was me. That was me.
That was you. That was you. Okay, that's funny. I don't get that often. It's kind of cool. But life goes on, and then whatever goes on, we get reintroduced to each other. And I'm doing my course. We're inviting Mari to check out our course. We want to do something. And as we communicate more and more, we realize there's a real connection. Josh and I don't recommend isopathic remedies. We don't recommend remedies. We're not doctors. We get in trouble for these things, right? So Mari is a doctor, which is awesome, depending on how you look at those things, right? But the cool thing is, as I talked to her again, she worked for the company that had the remedies that we were using, all right? And these remedies are awesome. I mean, we didn't use a lot of them, but one is the waste product of penicillin, and it's got the same properties as penicillin, and people that are allergic to penicillin have no adverse reactions to it. And these remedies, we're creating them in our body. So I talked to her. She's got the experience. She taught these things. Can we teach a course with you? We need people to know about this stuff. And the relationship started. So yeah, at this point it's nice because Josh and I look at blood, I consult with people, and I bring Mari in when needed. What's nice about Mari is it's not that she worked for the company. That company approached us and said, "Would you teach protocols?" And we said, "No, because there's no protocol. You are unique and you're different than the next person, and we have to look at people as individuals." So they weren't really happy about that. But talking to Mari is funny because her background is awesome. Yes, she's a naturopathic doctor. You heard us talk about this before. The naturopathic education in the last 10 years has changed, right? But she did this, she did this previously. And Mari did we'll let you talk about this too, Mari, some medical school, and that wasn't a good place for her to be. So the way she came about, what she has learned, is very similar to what our dad did. Knowing things weren't working, putting up with stupidity and asking the questions and irritating the teachers, and then looking at patients. Mari has experience with clients for a long period of time. So we're a team at this point, which is exciting. People come to me, we tell them what the blood is doing. If the blood says you need some remedies, I can't say it, but I can say, we need to talk to Dr. Mari and get her involved. So she's part of our process and part of our program, and it's been nice to have her on the team because we have someone we can ask questions to, you know. Josh has nobody really. Dad had nobody except for Josh, and you know us, dude. We ask the questions. No one asks, and no one knows what to think when we ask these questions. So yeah, it's been nice really having Mari here.
That's great. And it's also, you know, after your dad, like you said, you got we'll get into this isopathic stuff. It's not that it's dangerous, but it needs to be treated with respect. And it's not always your first choice of battle. We'll get into that later after we talk about what it is, because people watching are like, what are you talking about? Which I was when I first heard about it. But yeah, so it's great. So for you guys, it's that extra layer when you find stuff in people's holographic blood and find something wrong, maybe other traditional osteopathy or, you know, homeopathy or whatever. If these remedies aren't cutting it, this stuff definitely usually cuts the mustard if you get it correct. But to those watching, and I want to say this too, because one of the things we're doing here is we're doing a plug for a course that you guys offer. I think is it 13 weeks? I'll let you talk about that, where you can be trained in this medicine, but this is not to be taken lightly, you know, and as a disclaimer, Spacebusters disclaimer, if you're the kind of person who goes recklessly taking medicines and things, this is not for you. This stuff is really powerful juju. This is the essence of life and magic, and it works. So you do not go messing with this stuff without training. That said, if you're watching and you're not a homeopathic doctor or you're not interested in the course, you really want to hear this because it's empowering knowledge to know this is out there. And even if your naturopath can't help you, this is an option you should maybe go looking for, and you won't if you don't know about it. So maybe either one of you, Mari, can we just say what is isopathic medicine, and can we say what is similar and different from homeopathy or homeopathic medicine? Maybe just start there so we have a basis for what are we talking about.
Sure.
Go ahead, Em.
Oh, I was going to say, well, I got a handoff with you on this one. You know, for what we do, and we teach the course through the University of Turin, which is where the Bigelsen Academy is at also, is we want to educate and empower people so they can learn to take charge of their health care. So, you know, we should all have tools, all right? There are things like the flower remedies that are awesome. You know, they're accessible. Essential oils, great. Then you've got a next level to me is homeopathy. All right, homeopathy, awesome too, but homeopathy is one of these things where if it's like snake venom for a snake bite, if you haven't had a snake bite and you take the snake venom, you can create symptoms that aren't there. So homeopathy can be a problem depending on, but it's in our toolkit. So if people listening are using flower remedies, essential oils, homeopathy, awesome. Next level, isopathics. And correct me if I'm wrong, and then Mari, I'll let you run with this. Homeopathics are minute doses of things. All right, Samuel Hahnemann invented homeopathy. He took some of the cinchona bark from the tree and he ate it, and he got symptoms of malaria. Gave it to people that had symptoms of malaria in small, minute doses, and their symptoms went away. All right. So if I understand correctly, homeopathics are more plant-based. Okay, nature-based that way. Okay, isopathics mostly, and thank you for that. I'm still learning with this too, guys, all right? The isopathics, though, are actually live bacterials and fungals. So if you remember, Steve, we talked about homotoxicology, toxin enters the body, excretion is normal, inflammation is bacterial, that's how we heal, it's not a problem. But if inflammation becomes trapped, we become inflamed, and then things become fungal in nature. So there's a like treats like involved, which is similar to homeopathy. There's a smaller doses involved also. And if you watch the webinar we did with Mari, there's a remedy that can stop a stroke. That remedy can also, used in the wrong way, really damage somebody, potentially. All right.
Could it even maybe cause a stroke if you didn't need it, or not necessarily? That's the thing with the homeopathic remedy.
Yeah.
The thing it cures, it can cause if you don't have it and you start taking it for no reason, right? How does this work? And then after we do, let's get into most of my subs have seen like 20 movies I've made about microzyma and somatids turning into rod bacteria, turning into yeast, into fungal, and then back into spore, as you call it. So they're very aware of the pleomorphic cycle that Béchamp was all about. Gaston Naessens was filming this real time with his incredible microscope. So we know, because that's the funny thing. Like when you are in the terrain camp, you're like, don't touch penicillin, right? You're like, don't use that. But you're saying if you let penicillin either do a waste product or get to a different stage, that can treat the thing, right? But maybe I'm jumping the gun. Let Mari go. Tell us what is this stuff, Mari?
So just to add to what Adam was talking about, so homeopathy in the theory of utilizing only things that are natural, I can totally agree with in terms of utilizing, because you are getting minute doses of something. So the cinchona bark, for malaria, right? Quinine, where quinine comes from, that would be kind of reasonable if one would kind of think about that you're getting some sort of herbal or a dilution of an herbal. But where Hahnemann started kind of going like deviating was when he was getting dilutions of, chemicals and dilutions of poisons and dilutions of man-made substances. And so that is where I start to go, but I'm not deficient in a man-made substance. I'm not deficient in needing minute doses to stimulate my system. If my system is having a problem, stimulating my system to further excrete will exacerbate my problem. So why don't I work on my excretion and then stimulate my body in the way that it needs to be stimulated? And that's where isopathics actually come from. So, they come from the basis of helping the body do what it needs to do. But you still, as a person who understands terrain, you still have to help the body facilitate the excretion process, because that's where it all stems from, right? Regulating the fluids, like if we were to go back to Hippocrates, right? All the different fluids of the body, the lymph, the mucus, the bowels, the urinary system, getting those to do what they need to do, and working with the lower remedies, right? So that's what the course is about, is actually the remedies that the first course, the course we're talking about, is more of the fungal, what they're called fungal remedies. So fungal remedies are not stimulating, like go, 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 do kind of remedies. They're more of, let's kind of see if we can kind of make what's happening in your body a little bit more efficient. Let's see if we can kind of go through the right avenues of excretion. And the reason why they're called fungal remedies is because they are coming from the fungal part of the cycle. So a really good question someone asked one time was, I would think for some reason that you want to use bacterials rather than fungals to kind of get the body kind of cleaning up, especially since, when you have a sore throat and they swab you, you get, oh, look, it's strep, right? It's bacterial, right? They're not swabbing you and going, oh, there's a fungal. So you'd think that you would do like what isopathy means, like curing like, right? It's literally, isopathy means the same, exactly the same, where homeopathy is kind of like similar-ish, right? Like how Adam was talking about the venom, right? Like I have fever and swelling in some part of my body, my joints are stiff, I'm in pain. You take a snake venom remedy, and if you look at what snake venom does, it does the same thing. So it's like, oh, it'll reduce that symptomology. So isopathy is the premise of utilizing that which is natural, that which is occurring in the system, exactly that. But you have to understand, and you have to look at the cycle, and you have to go, okay, when we're moving gears backwards, like this is how I imagine it. The body has been geared up to be responding to some sort of stimuli inside of it, whether it be negative or, it created it by mass degeneration of cells because of malnutrition or some sort of trauma or something. You're so hyper-stimulated to get rid of this junk, right? And sometimes if you're not pooping enough, or not drinking enough water, or you have excess other toxins coming in that you choose to take in, but sometimes you don't know about, your body is going to be geared for the more stronger cleanup crew. And the more stronger cleanup crew is the fungal. They're strong. They're more. They take on. I mean, if you look in nature, right? When things are broken down in the forest, you don't. When a tree falls down, you don't see, oh, it's just going to take forever if little bacteria are just going to try to break down all those lignins and everything that break. You see big monster mushrooms, right, growing on that fallen tree to break it down. So when it comes to the body and using isopathics, you want to start with something that's a little stronger in its efficiency, but more delicate in the way it utilizes the cleanup crew. So getting those gears to go in reverse on the pleomorphic cycle, you want to start from the fungals. And once you kind of get it down there, then you can start working on the bacterials and all the other remedies that they have, like Hapton remedies and things like that, to kind of get deeper and deeper into the tissue of what, potentially is breaking down.
Let me, because I'm retarded, so let me reframe this. Let me frame this how I hear you, and I'll overdub the pleomorphic cycle for people who don't know it. You'll have the little somatids microzyma turning into a single form rod bacteria, into double form, into yeast, your yeast infection, then your superbug infections in the hospital, which is fungal. So what I hear you saying, let's talk about what they call strep throat, which is, they've probably fucked with you, or you're breathing, you took out your tonsils, they did something. And then these little spores or somatids turn into single or double rod bacteria they call streptococcus. But the thing is, by the time your body, those will eventually turn into fungal forms themselves after yeast, but only because your body's so screwed. By the time those ever turned into fungal, you're fucked already, pardon my French. So what you're saying is we'll just introduce the more extreme form anyway before we let your body force those things to turn into that. We're going to put the fucking, pardon my French, put the stronger version of because these are shape changers. They're like werewolves. They turn from these spores into bacteria, into vampires.
Absolutely. Transformers.
They're lycanthropes. Yeah, they're lycanthropes. I get it. So you're saying by the time your body naturally let these single or double rod form bacteria get to the fungal stage, you're so screwed. That's bad for you. We're going to introduce the heavy form now just to give a nudge to your bacteria. Is that what this is all?
Well, it's sort of like that, because the remedy you're not getting fungus in there. You're getting the somatids of that form.
You mean the spore? You're getting the spore form, or
correct? So
you're getting the original little light dots.
Yes. Okay. So what happens is, in let's say you make a soup of penicillin, right? So penicillin notum, right? So you make a soup of it. Within that soup, you have microzymas or somatids for your what you're saying. So you in there, the somatids are there, and they're in that environment. And so they're already like geared towards going to become penicillin. And then when penicillin is there and the fungus, they create the spores, and it creates a cycle, right? So they create the spores, and they're creating more of the somatids and more of the somatids. That's why when like Adam looks at the blood and they look at the blood, they have what they call like the storms. Like you see those little protists. It's because they're being produced, right? And so what happens is, in that environment of being produced, they're already geared for that environment. They're already like, hey, we know what to do. And so you're getting that. You're not getting penicillin, so don't take a chunk off of cheese thinking, oh, yeah, I'm going to get some penicillin. But it's more of the concentration of the somatids ready to go to, do what they need to do. And Enderlein had a law that he witnessed in the microscope countless times. When there's more of, and this is why you have somatid or protid or microzyma storms in the blood, when there's more of the lower valence, and that's valence is the levels, right? So
I was just going to say that. You're thinking, yeah, perfect. Yeah. Go ahead.
So, when you talk about the spore form versus the rod or the cocci form, all the way to the, bacteria, yeast, fungus, those are valences. So you're going up a staircase of hierarchy. And in Enderlein's law, the I always say Antarctic law, and it's not Antarctic. I always say it wrong, but whatever. It's that law. He says that when there's an introduction of more of the lower valence forms in an environment compared to higher valence forms, the higher valence forms, they copulate with the lower valence forms and become the lower valence forms. So in the essentially what the body's doing when it has a storm is it's trying to kind of hold down the fort from, making things turn into bacteria, making things turn into fungus, because it's trying to maintain the equilibrium, trying to maintain the homeostasis. So again, when we have symptoms, that storm has been surpassed, and now we have the bacterial forms, we have the fungal forms. So when you're taking the remedies, you're introducing more concentrated amounts of these, the little, little speckly guys, the little spore forms, and now you're going to now the body's going, oh, there's more guys. So now we don't need all these higher forms. We can bring it down to the lower forms and do a little bit more cleanup and maintenance.
Oh, now I totally get it. Right. Yeah. And the thing is, most people ruin their biome with all these antibiotics and antifungals, and hospitals like, we have superbugs and we don't know why. And you're like, maybe because you're giving antibiotics out like candy to everyone. And now these spores need to come back as fungal because you keep killing them every time they come back as a bacterial form. So now they do get resistant after a while. They are smart. These things are smart.
Oh, yeah. Well, they have to adapt to the environment. So when you're taking an antibiotic, it's not even a premise of you're killing off them. You're also killing off a massive amounts of your own cellular material. So you're creating like just war zones of just waste. And the body goes, oh my gosh, there's so much death and decay here. I need to have way more organisms. Now, if you were to look into Rife, like Rife had his own microscope to see, he said that it's impossible to know, because he would actually experiment with changing minutia of the environment to see a new form come about. So he said from even a one drop of change of alkalinity, one drop of change of temperature, one drop of change of any type of enzyme within the environment, you have a totally new form, which means that there's millions, trillions of different forms. So when they say they come out with there's a new bacteria that's, that can do this or can't do that, or, it's resistant to this, you created a new form by creating a new environment.
Yeah.
Yeah, you made the superbugs. That's what I've been telling people, you dumbasses. Can I ask you this then? Let's say I had a throat problem, liver. Let's talk about the liver, because I drink.
I'll drink to that.
I'll drink to that. So would you take these like the ancients did? In the ancient cultures, if they had a problem with their liver, they'd go kill a deer and eat the liver. Would you get your isopathics? Would you get your somatids from a liver? Yes. And where? An animal or a human? Or where would you get them?
Well, I wouldn't. I don't think we want to do cannibalism at this moment. But
at this point in society, I wouldn't fucking doubt it. But yeah. But do you try to get it from in other words, my question is: are the somatids in the throat different than the somatids in the liver? And are they programmed to do a different thing?
They're geared towards, right? So I mean, you have to transplant them into another environment, and you have to wait for them to adapt to the new environment. So they're geared towards where they are located at that very moment, at that very minuscule second that you're looking at them. The moment you change them, at 24 hours, like if you research Dr. E.C. Rose now in the Mayo Clinic in the 1930s, he watched them do within 24 hours. He was changing, back and forth, strep to staph to strep, back and forth by changing the petri dishes, the agar plates.
So it wouldn't maybe work if you put like someone's throat bacteria into a liver. It wouldn't even maybe work, or it is.
It could. It just won't. it just won't do what you're hoping to do. It may work a little bit and it may be slow progression. You may have to do it repetitively because you are getting like organotherapy, which is what it was called back in the early 1900s, is a form of isopathy, right? It is a kind of form of that way. So that's where, we're back into everybody's taking desiccated pills of all sorts of different organ meats. And people are seeing great results because you are consuming that which is the problem inside. We don't have problems so much with our muscles, we have problems with our organs. So that is absolutely isopathic in its own way. But to elicit more medicinal like responses in the body, remember, we're about cause and effect. It's all about doing something and creating an effect that we want, right? So cause and effect would be if you really wanted to if you had throat issues, you kind of go, if you don't want to think about the science of it all, then you go, okay, let me go get some dehydrated trachea, from the butcher and, consume that, chomp on that like a dog would, because they chomp on all parts of the animal, right? So that would be the most one-to-one. Utilizing other organ systems, somatids, you can certainly do it. You just won't elicit the same effective response immediately. It would just take a lot longer.
Oh, this makes so much sense now. Yeah. So you're just putting more of the thing into your body, saying like, so you don't go into this form. When I give you a little nudge, let's call it, and put more of these, your body says, oh, I'm supposed to be doing something here, or else this wouldn't be coming in, right? So then it just kicks into drive. It's like a kick in the ass.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Nudge is the right word, Steve. This is what Dad always said. You just give the system a nudge because this system knows what the hell it's doing. You give it a little support and it really does something awesome. And I said this before too, Mari. I think it was me that asked the question because I'm learning. I would assume if we had something bacterial go on, we're using a bacterial remedy. But the idea still is, if I get this one right, Mari, these remedies are more or less the essence of that organ potentially. Okay, so you're doing the essence and you've got something in the system where the symbiote microzyma is morphed to a valence of sorts, and then you're giving this remedy that's the essence of something that's a higher valence, and then there's the reminder and stuff starts to shift. And the reality is too, and correct me if I'm wrong again, Mari, we're actually creating these remedies in our body. Like this is part of the pleomorphic process. When you're hearing, fungus or fungal in the body, these are those remedies. So this is for people watching and listening too. It's that when you said before, even if you're not a practitioner, and things like that, this is helping you to understand how this works. Right. And I love when you say, you get it. It makes sense. You know what I mean? So if Steve gets it, it's got to make sense, right?
If I get it, anybody can get it. I'm stupid and I get it. Yeah. And it's so counterintuitive, Adam. The whole society, the allopathic industry is just against germs. Bacteria is bad, fungus bad, yeast infection. You're like, yeah, maybe she's got a new lover with a different size tool in a different place and has damaged some tissue. But, whether you call it somatids, bacteria, fungal, yeast, in any form in the pleomorphic cycle, their job is to remove dead tissue, waste, and toxins. That's their job, to get it out. They are the janitors of the body, and we've been saying this for years and years. And what you're saying is sometimes your janitors are sleeping in the back room on the job, right? So you need to bring in some more janitors to kind of like, hey, right? Is that what this is all about, really?
Absolutely. I like that comparison. Absolutely. But we can't always be angry at our sleepy janitors because sometimes it's our own fault for, intoxicating the janitors all the time.
Oh, my janitors are drunk as shit.
Not feeding the janitors right. Sometimes we neglect on, we kind of pursue too much the fake foods, the processed foods and stuff like that. And so our janitors can't do what they need to do in terms of their lower valence maintenance growth form. So then they have to wind up doing more of the breakdown and take it out into the garbage and the dumpster form. So it's more of trying to just keep them in the grow life, go forward youth versus death, decay, and rapid loss,
Now, maybe we can talk about because I saw you guys talk about this a little bit. Can you guys both talk about this? Doesn't seem to be the first go-to. It seems like you try other things first, and it seems like not always, but often it's a last resort. Can we talk about potency, for instance? Like, why aren't your doctors giving you this? And like you don't just play around with this shit. Like, it's pretty powerful juju. So can you kind of talk about that? Like, why is it that the doctors aren't giving you this, don't know about it, even the naturopaths? And why is it your last remedy and not the first? And what is it that you need to be cautious of? Like, I think, you don't just play around with this stuff. Can you talk through the potencies? Maybe let's go there and say, and how do you know as a practitioner, which they'll learn in your course? I don't know if that's too many questions, but no, it's one of those and start there and I'll shut up.
It's and I'll jump in just real quick and then I'll hand this to you, Mari. If you think about what we talk about with the blood, we're looking at the blood, we're seeing so many structural issues. You got your digestive problem because the structure is out of alignment, putting pressure on the system. There's a problem with an organ that way, okay? So we're looking at the blood, and the first thing we want to do is align the damn body, align the car. Remove restrictions. We talked about the scar treatments and the adhesions and things like that. Maybe dental work. So as far as we're concerned, this is the first place to start. You align the damn car, take pressure off things, and then ideally the system can be efficient and create these remedies itself. All right? Maybe it's been trying, but it's just got too many things going on. So for us, as we look at the blood so many times, we see those structural issues, we address them, and then things start to shift. And then people are headed their direction. But like Mari said, different people, different times, different circumstances, we get them involved, definitely. Not our first go-to, but definitely a big part of what we did, what Dad did, using your own experience to treat yourself. So it was the go-to when we needed to go someplace else, definitely. That was also, though, if you heard the webinar, the story where Josh and I had a friend who came to us with an issue, and Josh's initial thought was a certain remedy, and with that person in particular, that could have really caused a problem for him because there were some things we didn't know.
Yeah, can you talk about that real quick, Adam? Also, your camera keeps zooming in and out on you. I don't know if you've got it set up like superstar mode or what.
Superstar mode, yes. It's just you.
You must have just made a rock video, man. You've still got it set on auto zoom. Yeah, talk about that. So this guy came in and he had some so far along advanced problem. You tell us. So had you maybe given him that? Yeah, can you go through that story, please? Because that's
I'll tell it briefly, and then Mari can give us some more details as to what was potentially really happening. But the idea was he talked to us on the phone. His legs were swelling. He's got things going on, and okay, so he comes, and from what we see, what we know, what we think right off the bat, there's a certain remedy. But then as we sent him, Josh realized that this guy had too much going on. The swelling in his legs was too much. So Josh said, look, we need to get you to the hospital. Like Hoffman says, there's a time and place when you get to the hospital for certain things. So he had blood clots beyond. And if we had given him this specific remedy, it potentially could have, dislodged a clot and got it to a place where it could have caused a real problem. Right? Okay, so Josh, this is one of those times, people also that really shocked Josh. My brother loves this work, and my dad did awesome things. We never had negative effects on people or complaints from people. But Josh realized, and Dad said this, if I can cure you with these, I can kill you with these. So Josh realized at that moment, had he done this, he could have potentially killed his friend. Mari, I don't know if you have anything to add with what went on with that one for us, but, that really makes us take these things very seriously.
Yeah, please do, Mari. Maybe if you could expound why sometimes, how could this be sometimes beneficial, dangerous? And it's really up to the practitioner's judgment, right? So this, like I heard you say in your other podcast, this is a learning experience that you as a practitioner of isopathy or isopathy, however you say it, it's kind of a hit and miss experience, and you would never start out with high doses, right? You kind of wean them in to make sure you don't. Yeah. Can you explain that, like the danger versus the safety?
So the most important, the key feature is for all us practitioners that utilize these products. Well, utilize anything essentially. I mean, you can do the wrong thing with even a vitamin. It's assessment, and it's a huge component in realizing and assessing a person. That's why the worst patients are your family. The worst, and not even because they fight you tooth and nail about doing something correct for themselves, but because are you really looking at it objectively? And so I always tell people when it comes to utilizing these particular remedies, assessment is key. Diving in deep and realizing and seeing the whole picture of the person is super duper important. And then once you feel kind of comfortable with that, because over time, again, as a practitioner, I get comfortable with my own intuition, my own assessment, my own eyes, ears, and nose, right? And then I slowly, even if I do have a little bit of it, if I feel that little doubt inside of me, then I go really slow. If I feel very secure with my assessment and this seems very straightforward, then I kind of get a little bit, aggressive with it, because why not? Why not get the person to where they need to be faster? So yeah, there can be. I mean, you can do the same thing with homeopathy. I think you said it. I think Adam said it. Homeopathy in and of itself, especially again, the homeopathic remedies that I learned to use, because that's what I did 2 years of homeopathy and then half a year of clinical of just doing homeopathy. I don't like using the chemical based homeopathic, because the same thing can transpire. You give just too high of a dose and the person has a reaction, and a rash or whatever it may be, or all sorts of different type of uncomfortable symptoms. And I don't like the idea of, oh well, that means it's the right remedy because it created this response. No, to me, that doesn't feel like the right remedy. That means that you've elicited a response, and yes, you're creating more of an excretion. So in a way, yeah, you got something that was right for the body to kind of do something and make a change. But why does someone have to struggle and may have it, worse? Why not get the excretion, happening? Like, get you to urinate and defecate and sweat and do all the things it needs to do to get it out. And we can kind of bring those torturous symptoms down a bit, So yeah, it's all about assessment. It's all about getting comfortable with looking at the body and being comfortable with what you're seeing, being comfortable with what you know of the body.
Right. Do you guys do you have little wars between the homeopaths and isopaths and things that are going on? And by the way, we're not knocking homeopathy. Lisa Sturbach saved my laryngitis in less than a day with phosphorus and causticum. I've been doing singing remedies for 30 years, and all the dumb teas and time tea and, the hot toddies. This stuff right here in half a day, just boom, from full on whisper laryngitis to singing a gig 5 hours later. So we're not knocking that, but I'm kind of wondering, how all the different practices have their little fights. Is there any of that going on between isopathy and homeopathy, or no? Are you all buddies?
No, I mean, homeopathy doesn't see isopathy as homeopathy because it works differently. In that homeopathy, the number, the number on your homeopathic remedy, as the number gets bigger.
The X.
Yeah, the X30 or yeah.
Right, they're telling you that it's getting stronger. In isopathy, it's reverse. So the smaller number is stronger. It's more biological. And biological, it doesn't mean it doesn't have other energetic tendencies towards it. But in isopathy, the lower the number, the stronger it is, the more biologically impactful it is.
Yeah. And the assessment, Steve, is important, as you were asking. This is something we mentioned in the webinar with my family. And it's funny, Mari, with the family thing, too. So Dad looks at my blood. There's a remedy that my body loves that's very emotional that I don't like. All right. So my body wants it because Adam's got to go through his emotional crap, and Adam doesn't want to do that so much, But the one day I was out of my head, and my brother and my sister said to my dad, "What did you do to Adam? You treated him." And he gave me the strong one. and they were like, don't do that again. Adam's very strong. Adam can handle it, but Dad also, now I'm yelling at the family. So the assessment of knowing your client is important, and not shooting in the dark is something we've talked about a lot. This is why the blood is awesome for us, because the blood will tell us the remedy without question. And Mari's assessment is nice because her journey has included the blood, so she has a microscope. Her mother was an electron microscopist, so she has a lot of information, from there. And she has other techniques and things and tools that she can use to get a good assessment. So that's really important that you ask that question. And it's kind of funny that Mari mentions the family experience too.
I like to, the other thing I watched, what I liked you were talking about, Mari, and I don't know if it was just the homeopathy. You didn't call it a docket, but somebody had asked, when is there going to be like case studies, for the course and we'll talk about your course shortly. But the guy had written in saying like, a woman comes into me, she's got a heart and it's not like that. This medicine, didn't you say in school they teach those?
Yeah, we don't.
Can you talk that through and why this doesn't have that and why it can't possibly?
Well, I just like Adam's dad. There's nothing that I can be like, well, this, and this for this situation. So like for your laryngitis, right? Like I can't go, okay, so for every person's laryngitis, it's this remedy, you take this much. You have an understanding of how the remedies work. You have an understanding that most, like this one particular remedy is good for these particular things. And we can kind of bell curve it, right? Like we can kind of say this remedy will work most of the time for this situation, for this type of person. But there's outliers, right? It'll work fantastically, spot on, or it's not going to do anything at all. So we have to, take into account that, again, just like Dr. Harvey understood that there was uniqueness in every single situation, right? We're taking into account our belief system, our ethnicity, our propensities, our gender, our whatever it may be, our habits, our behaviors, what we eat, what environment we're in. Yeah, exactly. That also be taken into account, because it's important to realize that, you can give a remedy a person, and if they're all wound up every time they go home and, they're fighting with their partner or their kid, they want to wring their neck, whatever it may be, or the opposite, right? Like you give a too strong of a remedy to a person who's very like, yoga and, up in the air and kind of up here. And, they're very sensitive to certain things. So it's really important to realize that you can look, there's going to be case studies, obviously, to see scenarios, right? Like Adam just told you a story about what remedy. And imagine if he told you the remedy and the problems, and that's considered a case study, right? But that doesn't mean that every single person with the same symptoms or problems that Adam had, that remedy is going to do the exact same thing, right? So it's just good examples to kind of get into a rhythm. But it doesn't necessarily mean that's exactly what you're going to do.
Yeah, because, I won't get into all of it. But, I just done 30 gigs in 25 days, 3 hours of singing a night. I was stressed about going to Spain, having to record some songs with a guy I love. I had some other stresses from the channel. You had things going on. So I know what you're saying. My laryngitis, and it was full collapse to the, when you have those nightmares where you wake up and can't talk. I woke up on Monday morning and not even a whisper, nothing, like zero. But that is not the same as someone else who might have laryngitis. Like you're saying, they didn't go sing 30 gig, So I get what you're saying. And so mine might be a muscular and a mental, right? And another's could be like a guy punched him in the pardon my French, in the throat at a bar the night before, right? And he's got it, right? Is that what you're kind of saying?
Absolutely. Everything has to be taken into account. It's important to realize, again, the unique facility with which we live in, the unique construct of environment we live in. The only time I say sometimes that remedies work, similarly is like in families, right? Families sometimes, if they're all within a unit of eating the same thing and waking up and going to sleep in the same way, like they have certain propensities and tendencies, then I'll be like, yeah, this one remedy worked for you for this situation, and your daughter's having the same exact situation. It wouldn't hurt to try to see if that works for her.
Same
but then you would say in small doses. Yeah. Now,
micro. Yeah. No,
like you can't just go out and get this stuff on Amazon, right? Like, because for Adam and Josh, it don't work. They might be the same family, but they're ebony and ivory.
Yeah, totally. Yes.
Yeah. So you're basically like a real doctor, because when you go into an allopathic, they don't even spend 3 minutes with you, and they're like, "Oh, we know what's wrong with you. Here's the lab." And you're like, "How could you possibly?"
That's why I got out of med school. Med school was terrible. Med school, I did 2.5 years of med school, and it was horrible. It made me cry. Like, I literally was like, in pathology class was looking over all these, diseases. And mind you, I have photographic memory, so I could remember all these different names of different pathologies, and that's great. That's great for your boards. That's great for taking tests. But, looking at a person and going, okay, you have this disease, let me write it down, ICD-9 code and insurance and blah, 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 blah. But that's not telling me what's happening in their body. That's not telling me, their story from where they came from and how they got here. And all the different interplays within their body and within their life and their mind.
Well, and there's the person, too, that's got the laryngitis because they don't speak up to their spouse. There's a whole different array of things, reasons that this could be happening for sure. And there was something else I was going to say, but it just disappeared. So I guess it wasn't important.
The mental aspect in placebo, nocebo. Yeah, there's a million different causes of disease, and it's not specific to every one person. You and I could suffer the same disease from 2,500 different causes. Coming in angularly. Yeah. So
that's what my dad would say. That definitely 10 different people with cancer, 10 different reasons, and that kind of deal.
Yeah, definitely, which is cool. So I think this is great that you guys have this as a tool. So let's talk about the course a little bit, and then I want to maybe when Mari comes back. But so the course on your website, do you want to plug the website? And I'll put a screen overlay. Bigelsenacademy.com. Yeah.
Yeah, Bigelsenacademy.com. If you go there, her course is right at the front of our webpage.
Yeah, you just scroll down a tiny bit. Oh, there she is, the little one. Yeah. Good morning. Good morning.
Hola.
Hola. ¿Dónde está la biblioteca?
Nice. Awesome.
So you go to Bigelsenacademy.com, then you scroll down, you'll see Mari's beautiful face there in a little green patch. And it says Isopathic Theory Application Level 1. So let's talk a little bit about the course then. It starts February 6th. By the way, your website says 2024, not 2025.
Oh, thank you. I'm that guy.
If you're a guy like me who's a year behind, but you might want to put a 5 on the end there.
Yes.
You're welcome.
The year has changed, hasn't it? Dun, dun, dun.
And then you'll see it. It'll say Isopathic Remedies Foundation and Application. And you'll see Mari's face on there. And then they click on that. So tell us about the course. 13 weeks. Is it every day, or what's the length of the course like?
No, it's similar to the courses that Josh and I have been doing. 13 weeks. Each week there's going to be content. So I've got videos from Mari. I'm helping her put it together. It's offered through the University of Turin. Bigelsen Academy is promoting it. It's happening because of the Bigelsens, because these are the remedies we use, and we want people to know about this. But 13 weeks, each week there's going to be content released, and each week there is live Q&A webinar. Q&A is recorded as the content is there. There goes my camera. As the content is there, people can watch the videos, read the documents, and type questions in right there with the content. And the questions will get to Mari. She can answer them, and then those questions will also be discussed at the webinar. This course, like Josh and our courses, will be translated into Spanish. So we're international with the University of Turin, which is awesome. And it's, Mari's got the experience, which is great. The company, you can go to them and they do certain trainings and you can actually find the remedies and there's indications on the packages. And it's funny because you can get some of these remedies through Berlando. If you're an Alpha Vedic member, they offer some of these. And Josh and I even talked to Bear and we were kind of concerned. We said, aren't you concerned with people getting access to things that they don't know how to use and, could cause problems? And he said, well, They have to jump through a few hoops, and there is a little bit of, guidance there, but he said the ones that they offer are not the strongest ones. So there's not too much that can go wrong. But he's thrilled that we're offering the course. Bear is going to come be at the course, which is awesome.
Because I saw him saying you could even inject these little somatids, right? You could inject them, or you could take them in liquid form, or do atomizers? How do you get? Yeah, like how do you administer them? And yeah.
There's tablets and capsules and suppositories and injectables and all different things. It depends on what is necessary. That was Dad's favorite test was, hey doc, this hurts. So put this up there, and if they're willing to do that, then they actually are serious about what's going on.
Oh, dude, you're taking me back to my childhood, man.
You'll learn tricks because the way I use it is sometimes not necessarily the suppository is used as a suppository. So
yeah.
You're gonna learn different tricks and different things, and it's the course. Like I said, the course is only on the remedies right now that are the weakest of all the remedies, because I feel, as Adam does, as I'm sure Josh does as well, that I want people to get a handle on what they do, what they're about, before they start going, I want to stimulate, I want to get this stuff out. No, not yet. Wait till we
I want to stick this up my butt.
Settle down. Yeah, you can stick all kinds of other things up there if you want. Settle down.
Yeah. So it's a matter of just like slowly getting your hands on, getting comfortable. And to circle back, actually, you had a really important question at the beginning. Enderlein was a germ theorist, and so what happened was he took what he saw as that whole pleomorphic cycle, and he saw that after a certain point that when the somatids, when the spores turned into the bacteria and the fungus, he saw them as pathogenic because he saw them breaking down stuff, but he didn't qualify the stuff that they was breaking down. So it's the same as like when people talk about, what about that bacteria, flesh-eating bacteria? And I'm always like, yeah, but was the skin already damaged from something first?
Yeah, they only eat dead flesh. They don't come after your live flesh.
Correct. But science doesn't qualify, right? Science doesn't say, it doesn't know. There's no test right now to tell you if one cell is healthy versus one cell is sick, right? So science works under the premise that everybody's generally healthy. And that's the failure. That's the failure of understanding, how everything works. And you asked a really good question about why aren't doctors doing this? Why aren't they utilizing these things? Because again, you have to understand the concept of that you first have to work on the body's environment. You have to work on the way the body is flowing, and then you work on the symbiosis. So doctors if you go to medical school, as I did, there's no talk about that. There's none, not zero. They don't even, when you say terrain, what are you talking about? And then you find some alternative people and they'll talk about terrain as versus acid versus alkaline. That's not okay. That's like a little bit drop of the bucket of the whole thing. And then you still have a lot of alternative practitioners, whether they be acupuncturists, chiropractors, homeopaths, they still believe that germs are harmful, right? So if you were to look at their materia medica, like materia medica for homeopathy will clearly tell you that this is an antimicrobial. Herbalists will be like garlic. You need garlic to kill the bugs in your stomach, So we're very steeped in the germ theory. And so because Enderlein was during that time where it was becoming up and coming, that was what he espoused to see. That's what he saw. That's the.
Do you think Enderlein, if he were alive today, he would have been on our side, right? He would have been in the.
Oh yeah, absolutely, because he would have now been able to kind of contend with all of us and Gaston Nasons and all of us who are like, look, but don't you see what? Because remember, Enderlein was also a zoologist, right? He wasn't really like a doctor, and he only started looking at the blood for World War I. Like he was called upon. He was looking at people's blood in World War. I was like, okay, but I'm not a doctor, I'm a zoologist. So, it put him in a position where he got to see what he didn't think he was going to see, and so that's where he came about this stuff. But again, did he qualify what he saw the bacteria do as to was this dead tissue? And a lot of scientists now, I mean, if we have the conversation right now about all the different things that are happening, scientists will simply say, "Oh yeah, look, this happened in this petri dish, or this happened with this lab animal." And I'm like, but the lab animal isn't true to nature of what their environment's in nature. That petri dish isn't inside my body. I don't have a petri dish inside my body. So how is that an accurate assessment of what's happening? The only person that I agree with was Reif, and I think Ernst Almquist said the same thing. It's like you're never going to know all the different forms and all the different capabilities of these forms.
Yeah, because we don't even have the technology to get inside a living body and look at it. And electron microscopy, they stain it, dye it in acetone, lead, cut it. Like,
listen, they do that in live.
It's crazy. If you did that to any of to you and then said, "Tell me what's wrong with me," it's ridiculous. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, they do that with regular microscope, light compound.
Yeah.
My mom, after she was an electron microscopist, she was a biologist. She taught biology in college and junior high school. And she's like, in order to see, even to see like a cell from an onion, you're using a stain. So you're taking a sample of tissue, blood, skin, whatever. You're putting it on, whether you're putting it on a petri dish or you're putting it on the slide. You're adding solutions to see the differentiation, to see the little parts, the bacteria moving around. So you're already creating an environment. So when I swab my throat for your throat, right? I swab your throat. I put it in my agar plate, right? And I now take a sample of that, but in order to see it, I'm going to have to put a red stain. That red stain now is going to elicit a response, and that's going to turn what I'm seeing into rods or cocci or double cocci or whatever it may be.
Yeah. That's one thing about what's nice about Dad's work is the blood goes on the microscope and that's it. And even the live blood people are doing that these days, Steve. We talked about that last time. They're adding different things and going, "Oh my God." So food for thought for whatever that's worth.
Well, that's where the penicillin came from because what's his name was working for the Germans. I forgot his name right now, having a brain fart, but he was using blue dye that he was getting from IG Farben because they couldn't see the bacteria under the shitty microscopes they had. And the blue dye itself was killing the bacterial rod forms back into somatid spores. And they're like, "Oh, this paint kills the thing." It doesn't kill them. They just go, they're indestructible, as Naissance found out. You can nuke them, Béchamp too. You can't kill them. They'll come back stronger and stronger. But that's why your penicillin had all those pretty colored balls in there. When you look at old penicillin capsules, it's just paintballs from IG Farben.
Awesome. Nice.
It's ridiculous. They're like, what? So yeah. So Mari, so after the course, let's say I'm a doctor, which I'm not. I just play one on TV. Can I still reach out to you? If I take the course, are you there to help me? Because you have all this experience.
Absolutely. I think Adam can explain that once you sign up for the course, you have lifetime access to the course.
Yeah, it's nice. The way we design all of our courses with the University of Terrain, you sign up for the course once, you get lifetime access. So we're going to open up Mari's content. Lots of information. Towards the end, we'll definitely be talking case studies. There will be practitioners there that will lend some information. We'll have conversations about that. But you go off into your scene, and Mari is always available. It's the same with us. People that work with us, we are there to support you, motivate you, encourage you. We're there as the reference and the resource. So you're never just shooting in the dark with these things. With the course, you can watch the content for the whole year. You can type in questions. Mari is still around, and she'll get the questions, and she'll respond. And if you need to consult with her on your own experience or with your client, definitely. This is what we're doing these days. Josh and I are working on a package deal because I'm starting to have to refer people to her. I want people to get what we did, which was look at the blood, remove the blocks, and get them on their way. And if the isopathics are a part of that, I want people to have access to that. So she's definitely there without question. And she's happy to guide people. Because
I know you're training other people on the microscopy. We can't get into the microscopes. I know we don't talk about that, but I shouldn't do that. They're like Illuminati. But So, like, people who take this course, people who take this course, in the end, maybe you and is Bigelsen Academy looking, because maybe you'll swamp Mari once because too many people are starting to find out about this. So, are you looking for other isopaths? What do you call yourself? An isopath, or what's the name of it?
An isopathian.
Like a homeopath, I'm an isopath. I am what cures you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, are you looking to contract out to different ones around the world or something, or?
Well, the future holds a bunch of different things. Josh and Adam and I actually had an interesting conversation last night, and I think there's a lot of ways that this can go, and I see a lot of good positive things that we can definitely. We have a bunch of things working. Coming up, we have things that will definitely empower practitioners to get the support they need and the education they need, and then blossom out. And if we can create a network of, mini Harveys and mini Marizelles, that'd be super awesome.
Yeah. We're really excited. We've got younger people that are getting into this whole experience now and are looking, what do they do without having to go to naturopathic school or medical school and waste money and unlearn things? So we're, at this point, the companies that create the remedies do trainings. However, it's interesting. You buy the remedy, and there's an indication on the box. I love this one. And one of the remedies that we put in your mouth for the teeth, on the box, it says for rectal itching. So this is this is something you're going to come across in the course, definitely. But we want to guide people. All right. We want to be there for them, to support them and be that resource for them. And, like Josh and I, we can't be the only ones in the world doing this. Mari can't be the only one. We put the course together. We're teaching a group of people, which is nice. And then those people individually will have access. And ideally, those are the people that are going to be working with other people. All right. These people are going to work with their family members and themselves and potentially be practitioners. So they're going to take a load off Mari and take a load off us. We really want to support people in their own terrain. As much as I want you all coming to Mexico to have me look at the blood and then visit Mari and, do that, there are resources in your area. Some of you guys may end up being that resource. That you facilitate getting to Mari, you facilitate getting to the right experience. So good question,
because
Steve.
You know what, Adam, this has taken off exponentially. So, I'm like you, Mari. I knew the germ theory was, I don't know if I can say this on YouTube, but I knew the boogeyman wasn't real back in 2006, 7, when I became friends with my doctor, Amanda Vollmer. I don't know if you know Amanda. But it really was in the last 3 years where it's like doubling and doubling and doubling. And now people are getting onto the Bigelsen Academy and the blood hall. People are like, what? I never heard of it till Anarchapulco. I was like, what is this? So I think you guys are going to, I think things are going to just double and double and double again until you all have your hands full. Mari, maybe you could tell us, can you just tell us like a few success cases, or like not a case study, but so people are like, yeah, but does it work? Like, yeah. Can you tell us like a cool story or something?
Sure. My favorite, which I've told so many people about, is the woman that actually, I think she was 70, 79, 80, something around there. She was, literally legally blind. Her glasses were like super duper thick. Helping her with her diet a little bit. As much as you can in that age group, they don't really want to do too much different. But, that, and, one of the remedies that you put, there's only one remedy that you put in the eye. So she was doing the remedies that you put in your eye, the eye drops, and then with support of other things, a little bit of herbs here, a little bit of that, this, that, and the other, within several months, she reduced down the thickness of her glasses to the point where she was not legally blind anymore. And it just, it progressed a little bit better just every single time. My own father-in-law, when I met my husband, I was dating him, and, he had floaters. He had very light cataracts. He was 81 at the time, a heavy smoker, a shot of ouzo or so, little Canadian whiskey, Canadian club, every so often. So he started with the drops. He had a little bit of, I just gave him very little vitamins. I didn't change his diet practically at all because he wasn't cooking or anything like that. It was my mother-in-law who was cooking for him. And so he was putting drops. And then within a matter of, I would say like not even 6 months, he was sitting at the table and he was like, Louis.
Illuminati confirmed.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, yeah, just making sure. He was like, he's like, my floaters. He's like, my floaters are gone. So, like an 81-year-old, no diet change, very small, supportive. And to see that, to see that happen, it makes you kind of like, yeah, these things do something,
Yeah,
These things.
yeah.
Oh, that's what I was going to ask you. Yeah, because so yeah, when Lisa Sturbach told me about these homeopath remedies, I was in Spain already. It's illegal in Spain to get homeopathic stuff. You have to go to the Apotec, like the actual.
Yeah, they have a codex. Yeah, they have
The
something.
Codex Alimentarius. They're under it. Yeah. So I tried to get them. So, because we were trying to record a couple singles and they said, yeah, but we have to order them and then it'll be weekend and Christmas. So I was like, well, I'm leaving by then. Is it the same with these remedies? Is it a Codex element? Are there any restrictions for this stuff, how to get them or where or anything?
No, not that I know of.
Yet? Is this on the radar as of now?
I'll tell you, it's not been on the radar, which is interesting. This is why we love introducing the new words. But I'll tell you this: we had an experience, Mari, where the U.S. went into Germany and shut down the penicillin one.
Oh, I remember that. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So even Josh, like we can get the remedies. We have a relationship with the company in Germany, and we get them. There was a place online, Dr. Z used to be able to get some of them. I don't know if he's there. I don't know the company that Bear's using. So it's a good question. There has been some interesting things trying to get them.
You can get them. There's a in UK. There's a couple of dispensaries that you can get it directly in UK. They sell online. They can't. What's interesting is they can't sell it to the people in England, but they can sell it to everybody else outside of England.
The games we play, right?
Right, and in Canada you can get. There's another company who makes some of the remedies as well. I think a scientist a doctor/scientist who used to work in Sanum went off and did his own thing, and has made the remedies. I've been using various from different places, and they work the same.
We'll tell you more about that in the course, right? Yes. Well, and I was going to say a couple quick stories from us too with the remedies. It's funny because Mexico, come to Mexico, have some tacos, Montezuma's revenge, right? Yay. And I remember Dad always wanted to be a comedian, You have diarrhea, so you want to stop it, but the reality is the body's trying to get something out, so you're going to take something that stops it, not the idea. So the remedy strengthens the organs of elimination to help get that crap out, literally. So that's nice to understand how that works. And then my grandfather, my dad's father, when my grandmother passed away, we went back east for the funeral. And we're going to New York, so, we're excited to go have corned beef. Yay, that New York deli meat. And some real bagels. And as we get to the house, my uncle's house, my grandfather is having a stroke. A heart attack. Something's going on. And here comes the ambulance, and they're telling us, get the kids in the other room, and we go right past and go right to the corned beef. And we all sit down, and at one point, my dad's brother is
while he's having a stroke, you walk right over him and go to the table.
Yeah, pretty much. He was around the corner, But my dad's brother is a real doctor. He's an allergist that doesn't believe my father's work. It's his older brother. And Dad, as we're eating the corned beef, Dad leans over and he says, should I save him? And there's one remedy in particular that in this case was perfect. So Dad's brother says, if you can save him, I will believe what you do. And Dad gives him the Isopathic. And the story was, Grandpa came back very quickly. His heart had normalized by the time he got into the ambulance. All right. And he sat down with us in the hospital gown and he was eating corned beef with us. Dad's brother still doesn't believe what we do, unfortunately. But one remedy that quick, very powerful stuff. Very powerful stuff. That stuff is out there, but really, if you're interested in these things, take the course is one thing, or have a consultation with Mari.
Well, take the course. And I think, Mari, I remember you Didn't you say you had a story about a guy? He was going to have a stroke anyway, right? It was imminent, but you had already had him on some remedies, and so when he had it, like what would have probably crippled every. Yeah, can you quickly because we don't want to run long. We got about 5 minutes left. So would you mind how about we tell that story because it's cool, and then we'll pitch the course, and I'll put a link up on the screen. But this is a fascinating story.
So he came in, he already has poor circulation, history of vein removal from his leg. You could just see that purpley varicosity stuff happening in his lower limb. So that was his nature from, teens. He's a 60-something-year-old man. He's coming in, we're supporting the terrain, making sure he's getting all his nutrition, all his things, everything. And I get him on the remedy that helps with circulation. Not a high dose of it, but the remedy that helps with circulation and the remedy that helps support structure, making sure all those veins and capillaries and everything are strong. He has a stroke, but he's aware of it. And I remember the whole story. He's hugely aware of it. Something doesn't feel right. The wife calls the ambulance. He's still completely all there, but he just feels like a restriction or a lack of on one side of his body. They take him in, they do a scan, they find out that he had a clot in his brain and that it kind of, locked up a whole area. And the doctor's like, well, you're going to have to be in here for several, based on the size of the clot, this, that, and the other. But he's like, I'm fine. I feel fine. He just had, he literally was, the doctor's like, well, then you can go to work tomorrow, I guess. He was just like
after a stroke, like a full on stroke.
Full on stroke, yeah. He looked. I mean, the injury was there, and they were like, well, the injury's there, and he should have been. There should have been more symptoms, So they're like, oh, well, maybe it was minor. I guess it was a minor stroke, but even a minor stroke, they're like, we have to hold you, and we have to this, that, and the other. But he was like, no, he was talking. He'd had a little bit of a sag on the mouth, and the tongue was deviated slightly. So it probably had to do with the location of the brain, or had to do with the mouth and the muscles in there. But at the end of the day, he was like, he was in my office like a couple days later, he's moving, and he's like, oh, he's fine. And I'm like, yeah, even if it was a minor stroke, you shouldn't be up and at it like that quick. So, it's a testament to that his body got what it needed at the right time.
Yeah, because you had already been supplying them anyway. So had you not, he might have had a real monster one, and he didn't have the full on Bell's palsy. That's what I was going to ask you. There's a lot of people having medical conditions from the multiple boogeyman things.
Yeah.
Would you say that isopathic medicine, is this a way these kind of people might want to go because they have pretty severe problems? What was your without
assessment.
Kicked off YouTube? Like choose your words wisely.
Assessment. I will always resort to assessment. It's always very important to be assessed properly to ensure that, again, you are, not skipping any steps. And it, as we said earlier, it's not like the first go, it's not, a person doesn't walk through the door and, I mean, there are some times when people walk through the door and I'm like, they would do really well with this remedy. But it's not the first thing that I give them. I just keep it in my notes or in the back of my head. And it's not the first thing I do. The first thing fundamentally is we have to look at the terrain. Are we being nourished? Are we detoxifying? Are there traumas to the body? Are there misalignments due to the traumas and the malnutrition? We need to know that the body is being supported, that there's a foundation there,
And you're teaching this in the course. You're going to teach people how to go through these, how to give a life assessment. Let's call, I don't know what, or how I don't know what you call it. What would you call it? And so if you take this course.
Absolutely. It's important again, it took me a handful of years to really kind of get solid down there. So one course is not going to get you to the place where you're like, oh, I could do what she does. It's not going to be that. But definitely you'll get comfortable with what you need to know, what is important to know. You'll get that information. Absolutely.
Yeah. And the reality too, Steve, is, if you're a practitioner, you've got clients, there's a lot of ego involved when when we become practitioners. We're the ones that help people. But the reality is if you've got someone, there's a block and you're not getting past a certain thing, it's an easy assessment. We look at the blood, we see that, and then we get Mari involved as well. She gets the consultation report. She knows, she speaks our language. And then we educate the practitioner who then can work with their client. Right.
And you guys also you care, if you go into like the doctors are taught. Remember, they used to teach the doctors, like, don't get involved with the patient. Remember in the old days, they're like, don't get attached, because if you got to give them a cancer diagnosis, they're like, I'm sorry, I've got a golf appointment in 2 hours, but you're a dead man walking. See you later. Nurse Ratchet will be in a second. You guys care, and you're building a support network. This is a totally different kind of medicine, how it was supposed to be. So
this is the way it is supposed to be, isn't it? This is like it takes a village. Like we're working together.
Who's this course for? Who would you recommend take this course?
Who would you recommend, Mari?
I think the house mom, can get it, and may not get it the first time around. She may, being that the school is providing. I mean, I've never heard of this before. It's fantastic, providing access for forever. Like you can look that information over and over, take the notes. Go to the live, ask the questions. You get it reinforced over and over and over again, which is fantastic. So the house mom can do it. The practitioner can do it. The people who, even if you're in school to become a practitioner, you can do it. If you're even just in college and you're like, I want to help people. Maybe this is something. So it's really for anybody who's really interested in going, I want to have some tools. I want to have some tools in my toolkit that, in case I travel and I don't want to take an antibiotic and I don't want to be stuck with Montezuma's Revenge or, like that type of stuff. So it's really kind of it's a very empowering course.
It's for the person also that really wants to understand what's happening and why it's happening. This is why I said, and I've got people signed up that are not practitioners. I got a guy, he's 80. He's so excited just understanding how his body works, how he's gotten to where he is. So it really is a course for everybody and anybody.
Well, that was my other question is, let's take that guy who's not a practitioner. How will they have access to these isopathic remedies? Will they need to go to an isopathic license? Do you need to be like a licensed practitioner, or can they get them through other channels? Should they need them? You know what I'm saying? Or
there's ways too. I know there's different ways to get them. There's different a couple of different ways to do it,
and you guys will show that in the course how to.
There's no obfuscate. Like you don't have to be like underground tunnel, and you got to know a guy named Bob. You know what I mean? Open. You know what I mean?
Bear was saying that was him in the early days, though. I saw Bear saying he was suitcase exchanges like a
briefcase
drug dealer.
Yep, totally briefcase. Well, and I'll tell you this too, as with the questions and for people listening to all this, I think it's important, if nothing else, to realize that, Mari's had a lot of experience with this, and we're here to support you guys, to hold hands in a way so you're not shooting in the dark. If you have questions and thoughts and you're not sure, ask Mari. It might cost you $1 to consult with her, but that's better than guessing. That's better than potentially hurting yourself or somebody else. And there's a lot of excited people these days doing new things to get involved and help people. All right. And even you hear Josh whine about this, that there's a lot of terrain experts these days who really haven't had any practical experience with the terrain. So Mari has the experience. We've had certain experience for a long time. So she's the resource. And she's here. This is why we do these courses. Bear was excited that we were offering the course. He said, someone's got to do it. It's about time.
Right, because what we just say, Enderlein was a germ theorist. So the courses, when people learn the courses, when I was part of the company, unfortunately, it was very germ theory-ish, and it didn't resonate with me at the time. Because when you start looking at it in the way of wait, he's seeing it pathogenically, but then how's it working this way, that? And then you start breaking it down and stepping back, and it doesn't make logical sense.
Yeah.
So in a way, it's kind of like, like you said, if Enderline was alive right now, he'd probably go, oh, wait, maybe I was kind of off on that one.
It is like that. Once you get it, that what you're calling diarrhea, runny nose, what you're calling sickness is the cure. The body is brilliant. It's always in a healing mode. And then all the allopathic medicines stop it. You have a fever. The stupidest thing you could do is take aspirin to stop the fever. That is the healing process. It's like once you get it, but it's really, really hard for people to be, because we're so indoctrinated, as you know. I'm preaching to the choir, and especially our viewers. But once you get your head around this, then this really, really makes sense. And it seems to me like it's a very important. I'm shocked that I've just learned about it. I've never even heard of this. And I went on. Felix sent me your talk with you guys and Bear and all that. So I went online and looked at like the mainstream definition of isopathic medicine, and it is nothing like you're saying right now.
No.
Is that by design, do you think? Are they out there trying to deflect from this?
Sure.
I think so.
Yeah. One of the definitions I found had said they were the V word. Yeah. So we're treating people with that. How do you like that? That's kind of.
I didn't even see. I don't even look at that stuff. I'm like, whatever they say, it's stupid anyway. So I bother looking.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Well, we're running an hour and a half, and I said I don't want to keep you. I know, Mari, too. You got to feed the kids and go to Taekwondo. Is your daughter in, or
Taekwondo? Yes, that's right.
She what kind of belt? What belt she have?
She's green already. She loves it.
Little killer. I won't fight her.
Watch out.
Only if I'm coming out of the taco joint drunk with Adam after like a poker. It's the only time I'll fight a 10-year-old. Awesome. So let's plug the course again. So they can find it at bigelsenacademy.com. Also, University of Terrain. Is that a different website as well, or?
Yeah, the University of Terrain is something that myself and Anna Maria Oliva, my girlfriend, created. If you go to the University of Terrain, there's a lot of courses, and the majority of them are Spanish, so sometimes people get confused with that. But you can go to universityofterrain.com and you can find the course there as well, or come straight to our website and find the course there. We try to make it accessible.
¿Dónde está el isopathic médico?
¿Dónde está?
Yeah.
Okay. It's there somewhere.
And so like we'll wrap it up. Is there anything else that I'm missing? Because I don't know what I'm doing, but is there anything we should say that we haven't covered, or what do you think?
No, I think it's been pretty good. People know where to find the course. If they've got questions, they can reach out. Mari, you want your website to be known? Do we tell people?
Oh, yeah. Tell us your individual one.
Yeah, it's easy. Terraindoctor.com.
Good website.
How do you spell doctor? Is there 2 R's in terrain?
Nice. It's terrain DOC, right? Yeah, DOCTOR. Yeah. So she's there.
What's your daughter's name there, by the way?
Leora.
Leora.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Leora. Hi, Leora. Say hi. You're talking about 60,000 people right now.
Famous.
Whatever. When's lunch? Yo tengo hambre.
Yes.
All right. Well, let's say, how about we're going to wrap this up here? I'll hit stop record. And thank you both for coming on. And great to talk to you again, Adam. I'll see you in a month anyway down in Mexico. So that's going to be great. And Mari, awesome to talk to you and meet you. I love what you're doing. It's great.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to finally talk to you one-on-one and meet you, because I loved a lot of your different, I've watched a lot of different things that you've done, and very awesome.
Oh, thank you. I didn't know you knew who I was.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I usually say that because I was always the kid that was in the back of the room. Like, I don't want anybody to know who I am. I'm like not that type of person. But so it's usually reverse for me. People go, "Oh yeah, you are who again? I don't remember. Where were you? How did you?" Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm honored that that I'm making a difference. Then I mean, like, that's always great when people I look up to are like, "You're Steve Falconer." I'm like, "Yeah." So.
Oh yeah, no.
Who are you? How do you know who I am? I love you. Yeah.
It's nice. I appreciate it, Steve, because it's, I said, I want to invite Mari on. You've heard the name, which is nice, but I appreciate you helping us generate the awareness so people.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Awesome. Thank you.